It's day 2 of Labour's conference. We are expecting to hear from the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, as she promises to provide some optimism on the economy. Some of the front pages are carrying this today. So this is the sort of Labour message the Mirror's printed out. We will get your money back, and that's all about, I suppose, tax dodgers or whatever, and whether they'll ever get anything out of Amazon and Google and Starbucks and so on. The Times then again takes the Labour line. Good times ahead if we seize them. Unfortunately for Labour, the story that everyone's talking about is the Mail front page. And it's not just the freebies, it's Angela Rayner hiring a so-called vanity photographer. And you'll be furious about that as well, Marina.
I'm not furious about it.
About the coverage of it. I mean,
I think the coverage is, again, pathetic.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Why are we obsessing? I think the Daily Mail and the right-wing press's obsession with Angela Rayner, or indeed Sue Gray, or indeed any other person within the Labour Party who is female, is deeply problematic.
I must say, I was kind of... So I'll show you the picture of the photographer who... Listen, ministers have people photographing them for all kinds of reasons. There is the bloke. I guess he's probably a civil servant of some kind.
Our Minister for Common Sense, what was her name? Esther McVey.
Yeah.
God help us. She spent thousands. Who was she? And she spent thousands on a vanity photographer.
What do you think about having
Sunak went to a Southampton game, which he was pretending to find interesting, and brought a taxpayer-funded photographer with him. Where was the outrage?
Why can't they just carry their phones? What do you think, Danny?
Well, I don't get why they need photographers in the first place. You know, they're civil servants. They're put in power by us, effectively. You know, we know who they are. We voted for them. Don't think we need photographers to follow them around, making them look better for whatever reason.
I suppose they're getting at some sort of historical view. Maybe
I don't need you. Honestly, I think it's bad optics here. Why does she need her own dedicated photographer? I do genuinely think the optics are terrible.
Oh, OK. So you are cross about that.
I think there should be a photographer that can service, I don't know, all of the cabinet, for example. Why does there need to be one designated? I don't think that's ever actually been done before. So, yeah, I don't think the optics are great on that.
OK. Right. Let's talk
It's called
more.
nuance, Jeremy.
No.
Nuance.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, maybe it's right or wrong to have your own photographer, and we can decide is it right or wrong. And then people.
Have you got one, Jeremy?
No, I don't have a photographer. I've got a phone. I mean, if I need to take a picture of myself, I can get someone. Hand it to the nearest person. You know. More than £700,000 worth of free gifts and hospitality has been received by MPs in the past year for everything from Taylor Swift tickets to helicopter rides. Prime Minister himself has received more than 65 grand worth of gifts in the last year, including new clothes, accommodation and hospitality to watch Arsenal's football matches. He's now pledged not to accept any more free clothes from donors alongside the Deputy PM and the Chancellor. And this is what Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, had to say about it.
I can understand how some people think that it's odd. I get that. I had an old friend who wanted to support me during the election campaign, and what she really wanted to do was to help me make sure I was smart for big events and on the campaign trail. I appreciated that support. It made a big difference to me. It was never something that I planned to continue in government, but it did help me during the election campaign.
But the fact that you've said you won't take any more for clothes suggests that you do admit it was a mistake.
I think especially now that we are in government and having to make decisions, including some difficult decisions on the public finances, it's right that that doesn't continue.
OK. Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson has admitted to accepting Taylor Swift tickets because she said it was too hard to turn them down.
I'll be honest, it was a hard one to turn down. I appreciate there was big demand for the tickets. It was a privilege to be there. One of my children, was keen to go along. It's hard to say no if you're offered tickets in those circumstances, but it was declared. I've been clear about that, but I do recognise that, I'm in a fortunate position to be able to receive it.
What do you think of that?
I just think we've lost our absolute minds here. Right, OK, look, let's make sure we're clear about the difference between donors and gifts. The big question mark comes over who the donation or the gift is coming from and what is their motivation for doing so. If I had my own way, I would entirely scrap donations and remove them from our political system. I hate the fact that we essentially have a democracy that is up for sale to the highest bidder.
And is the Taylor Swift ticket a donation?
No, and this is the difference.
It's a gift.
OK, there are certain things that are going to come as being a perk of the job, or perhaps a safety measure of the job. So, for
Yeah, but
example,
surely
Taylor
you
Swift
you
is a
shouldn't
perk
get
of the
perks
job.
of the job if you're a civil servant.
Why not? There
Because you've
should
been
be
put in
no
office by
perk.
the public to serve the public.
Doesn't matter.
That shouldn't be a perk of your job.
Do we want to have good people in these jobs? Do we want it to be an attractive role? It feels like as soon as the Labour have got in, they have to be like holier than thou and really worthy.
Well, no,
they can't have any fun, and they've got to have these low wages.
£100,000 wallpaper and
Look,
whatever
I'm just
it
going
was.
to say something absolutely ridiculous. There are certain things that come with being in a position, right? I'm now in a job where I get freebies. I get offered to. I get invited to premieres and this,
but
that,
you're
and
an
the other. Like,
influencer,
no, I'm
and
not.
people
No,
want
I'm
something.
not.
Well,
I don't, that's
are you
not
on
my job.
Instagram?
Yes, I'm not an influencer. That's not my
you
career,
post?
Danny. It doesn't make me an influencer.
So therefore,
more
people will give you freebies and will give you because they want to see you at these events and they want to see them wearing their clothes
But
or whatever it might be.
But the FA, for example, wanting to have a prime minister at their event, whether it's
that's
Sunak
Arsenal.
or whether it's it's not. It's also
It's Arsenal.
Okay. Keir Starmer went
The
to
FA
Taylor
is a governing
Swift.
body.
Keir Starmer went to Taylor Swift at the FA as a gift from the FA.
Oh, right.
Now, there's a certain thing, that kudos, that comes with prime ministers going to events, right? So I understand there's going to be
But he's going
that.
to Arsenal every week.
And what's the problem?
But they're paying for that.
So
Yeah,
you
They're gifting that.
what is the
And
problem with
what
that,
is the-
Dan? Well, let Danny
Well,
answer.
I think
with that?
one is that should be a taxable benefit. You should have to declare everything.
He does declare it.
And what about all the other stuff he's getting? Well, only because
So
he's been
this is
found
where
out.
there's a line, okay? So I think stuff like that, where he's just going along to an event, there's no quid pro quo, there's no conflict of interest, there's no possible corruption. Not got a problem with that. Perk of the job, whatever, because, security measures, he can't just be in the stand with everyone else. Totally fine.
Then don't go.
Don't be ridiculous,
Why?
Danny. Don't go to the football. This is a man who's been going to watch Arsenal for years and years and years, and you know what, because he's Prime Minister,
he's
to be
chosen to
punished.
stand for Prime Minister. There are consequences that come with that.
Honestly,
you can't,
Danny,
you can't
this
just
is
have
Does it make a
really
difference
stupid
that he was
argument.
taken? He was
So that's
sat
it.
with
So Danny's
people.
saying
Hang
that
on,
if you
Maria.
become Prime Minister, you've got to cease support of your
He was
football
sat
team.
with people who were lobbying for a Super League. Does that make a difference?
He was sat with people who were lobbying. My Christ. Okay, we had Rishi Sunak, who was going to Southampton
can't
and
always do
sat
that
in the
thing of
director's box.
talking about
no,
the
there is a
Tories.
problem here because the double standards is off the chart.
Is it?
Yeah, absolutely off the chart.
Because this
Did
is
we
like the
have
first
a
2
debate?
months of a
Did
government.
we have
here.
a debate on this show when Rishi Sunak would go along in the director's box to go and watch Southampton play, who we know he didn't care about, with a taxpayer-funded
All right,
photographer?
good
No,
point.
we didn't talk about it.
Barry's in London. Hi, Barry.
Hello, good morning.
Should they stop accepting freebies, or is there nothing wrong with it?
No, I'm not so exercised with the freebies. It's a conflation of members of parliament, well-heeled members, accepting nice freebies at the same time as they're cutting winter fuel payments for pensioners. It's unsupportable. It's just unacceptable.
That is
it's
the-
that conflation I find it's outrageous.
Yeah.
And to blame the Tories and say, well, the Tories did the same thing, that's not good enough. I think Disraeli once said that the patriotism was the last refuge of the scoundrel. Well, Me Tooism is the modern-day version of the last refuge of the scoundrel. You can't blame the Tories. You should not accept gifts at the same time as you're cutting back fuel payments to pensioners.
Okay, Barry. Okay, and on that basis, we're gonna argue like that. So what about the Tories who were in power for 14 years, who raised our taxes to the highest they've ever been, who cut our welfare to the
can't keep attacking
the
them.
lowest it's ever
They're not
been,
in power
and the
anymore.
amount of gifts and
But that's gone.
and donations that they took is
They're out of power
off
now.
the scale.
But that's
I don't
gone
care.
now.
Are you
I'm
judging
trying
them
to
against the Tories?
highlight-
Okay.
I'm trying to highlight the selective outreach from people. I genuinely hoped
Okay.
that we had better critical thinking.
Danny.
Did
Danny.
Keir Starmer give Boris Johnson a hard time for redoing his flat and having ridiculously expensive wallpaper?
I think he did, and he
So
should have done.
therefore he's a hypocrite then?
We're talking about donations. We're talking about
Well, no, and
donations
gifts.
versus gifts. Can you not understand the difference?
It's a freebie, right?
It's
a
all
freebie.
about where it comes from and what the intention is. Okay, a
But how
donation
do we know that?
from someone. So, for example, a donation to someone like Boris Johnson of I'm going to pay £200,000, by the way, which is more than Keir Starmer has ever claimed, right? Which was just for his flat refurb. That was because he was doing it for a peer who then he was speaking to about getting him involved in the contract for an event, if I remember rightly. This, if you are a donor, for example, you should be exempt from any government contracts, from any peerages, from any honours, and from influencing any
that's not
policy.
gonna happen.
It's why not?
Well, because
Simple solution.
we've got it the other way around. You give a party lots of money, you end up in the House of Lords. Everyone knows that's the system.
What needs to be scrapped.
Yeah, well, maybe so, but that's not what's happening here. Thank you, Barry. Joe in Sheffield, hi.
Hello, morning.
Are we right to be troubled by these freebies, or are you going with Marina? It's almost like media magic, where they've created a story that doesn't exist.
Well, Marina first, happy birthday. Marina's always right, just like Yasmin and Owen and Marina. But it creates suspicion and dodginess, and it's just odd. Don't do it. Just draw the line. And it shouldn't be acceptable. No
It is
gifts,
partly about, I know you've
nothing,
drawn this.
Just nothing.
Marina's drawn this line between donors and freebies. I just think it's how it looks, and it's in a way it's a
the
false
optics of it.
distinction.
Yeah, of course it is. All these people that are donating freebies or gifts, they're in positions of power.
What do they want out of it?
Exactly, they have influence.
This is
So
what
they're
I'm
looking for
saying.
something along the line. So therefore, a gift is no different from a donation.
So you think the Prime Minister going along to the Arsenal to watch his game, do you think the people that offered him that box at Arsenal, which is Arsenal, have got some sort of other incentive that they want to influence policy other than it's just nice to have a Prime Minister in the game?
100%.
What is that?
Well, who runs Arsenal?
Go on.
Well, you tell me.
Oh, I don't know. You're in football.
Well, there you go. But there you go then. So you don't know who runs it. So you don't know what powers they have behind it. Who are those people offering tickets? Arsenal is a global firm.
It's just you don't think sometimes that there's a kudos. There's a why do we have King Charles at games and sporting events?
Oh no, I think
because it's
that
good
may
to
all be
have
the same
a
thing.
Prime
Because
Minister or a person
he's
there.
not elected by the people.
I think
No, I know that's a problem.
It's quite. Listen, if I owned Arsenal, having the Prime Minister be in one of my rooms on a Saturday where I can pop in and say, "Hi, I've got problems. I can't get my crazy paving past the council. Can you do anything about that?" I mean, it gives you.
What other influence do those business people have?
Sometimes they just want to have like celebs and people like that at their events.
Okay, all right. Maybe
Again,
you're right. It's
I can't
completely.
believe the discussion we're having over
Let's
this.
see it. Let's see the issue of.
Boris Johnson's got his wedding paid for by a donor.
And that was wrong. That was also wrong.
Yeah,
But we didn't. We didn't
comparison
care
with
about
Johnson-
it,
We
then,
can't
did
go back on that now. We can only deal with what is today.
I'm not saying we go back on it.
Okay,
I'm literally saying we
hang on.
scrap the whole
I don't-
donation system.
yeah, but-
this faux outrage is pathetic.
All right, let's just. I'm going to show another Angela Rayner clip. This is her talking about the holiday she had, I think, in New York, in Wahid Ali's flat.
It was a personal holiday, and I think I followed the rules. In fact, I went above that, and I wanted to do that to be transparent about the connection that I had of the use of that apartment.
But they stayed in that apartment. Sam Tarry, who used to be a Labour MP, stayed in that apartment and you didn't declare it. Did you break the rules?
I don't believe I broke any rules. I had the use of the apartment and I disclosed that I had the use of the apartment. In fact, I think I was overly transparent because I think it was important, despite it being a personal holiday.
See, do I have a problem with this, Danny? You've got to think that Wahid Ali was up to no good. And actually, he's just a very rich guy who hangs around Labour. So what is the problem?
It's the people that are donating or giving large freebies are generally people with positions of power or have influence. And therefore, they want something back for that. Simple as that.
All right. Now your calls on banning MPs from accepting freebies. We've got a great discussion going here.
It's going through the ad break as well.
It's
not ending.
it's really if anything going further apart, these two. 0207 862 2222. Linda in Kent, how are you?
I'm very well, Jeremy, and yourself?
Well, I'm well. I mean, I don't know what to think about this because obviously Labour have walked into this and they've done the winter fuel payment and then Taylor Swift tickets, and it's like 2 months in, they haven't got a government left.
Well, quite simply, I was affected by the winter fuel allowance, but that's not to do with what you're talking about. I think it's quite simple. My son has worked for Tesco's for 30 years and on occasion has been offered gifts. When he's been working on the checkout, if he's been particularly kind to somebody, usually someone elderly, and I can say that because I am elderly, helping them, being extra kind, going the extra mile. Maybe the daughter has come in later on and said, look, can I give you a box of chocolates? Can I give you a bottle of wine? And he's had to very politely decline because they're not allowed to. So if he's not allowed to working in Tesco's, why is the Prime Minister being allowed to in the highest position in the land?
Oh, I mean, if I was him, I would take the box of chocolates. What's stopping him doing it? Could he not? Is he told he can't take gifts from customers?
No, that's right. You're just told you're not allowed to. I mean, many, many years ago, I worked at BHS. I'm going back nearly 50 years now, and it was the same with us then. We just weren't allowed to take what they called it gratuities.
Alison is in Lancashire. What do you think of that?
Well, I think if the general public knew about other industries or sectors who took gifts, I think they'd be, oh, okay. I mean, I'm kind of slightly gobsmacked with all this. I think I'm lost for words. I think it's a mountain out of a molehill. I agree with Marina. I mean, I used to work in a doctor's surgery, and every Christmas we'd get hundreds of gifts from patients, boxes of chocolates, biscuits, wine, and it didn't mean that we were going to give somebody an appointment every Monday, or, you know, it didn't make us look at the patients any differently. It was a thank you. And I can understand the Tesco thing, because you work in a shop, it's got bottles of wine, it's got boxes of chocolates. How do they know that they haven't just picked it up and, you know, walked out with it?
I don't think it's that. I don't know quite what it is. I'm not sure the logic of it.
When you go to a restaurant, you tip. You know, you say thank you.
No, that's wrong now. There's a lot of restaurants now that are refusing to be able to give people tips or give the staff tips. It has to go to the restaurant for that simple reason, because people go, well, actually, I only want to serve that table because I get a better tip, or you get it obviously a lot in that, and that's what it is. You want a particular server, a particular server wants to do it because it's influence.
Yeah, but I'm in hospitality, and that has never happened. I've been in hospitality on and off since the early 90s. That has never happened.
But these are elected civil servants. That is the biggest problem. They shouldn't be taking anything that could have, that even remotely looks like it might have something of influence.
Yeah, all right. Well, but I mean, maybe in the end,
it just needs to be made.
It's too harsh a rule.
Honestly, it's just like you don't live in the real world. Like when I started out working in a dry cleaners, then being pot washer at Debenhams, like I wasn't getting gifts, I wasn't getting freebies, I wasn't getting perks. But you know what? As you work up to some of the most high-profile, demanding, under scrutiny, constantly jobs in this country, do you know what? You might every now and then get a perk, and that's fine.
You know, there was a case of
I've just been reading this. Should be outside of that.
I've just been reading the story of British psychiatrists used, and particularly sort of people connected, used to be given lots of they're taken out for meals and stuff by pharmaceutical companies because that's how they made their connections with them, and then they said, look, we've got a new product coming, and they just suddenly realised that the more meals that they got, whether it was a direct connection or whether it was almost just subconscious, the more prescriptions they would write for the drugs being made by the pharmaceutical that bought the meal. And they banned it.
And that's because there's a clear conflict of interest. We're agreeing. I'm saying where there is a potential for corruption, conflict of interest or whatever, it's unacceptable. If we're talking about going along to watch a game in a box that's provided by a football association or a football team that you were going to go and watch anyway and you need to for a security measure, what the hell is that?
Well, it may be that's where this Wahid Ali thing comes in. Now, he is a Labour peer, right? So he's somebody who's in Labour anyway. So if he's splashing his cash around all of his colleagues...
That's problematic.
Oh, I was going to say maybe it's not his Labour anyway. What does it matter?
No, that's different. That's
it's like
different.
Mandelson got bought a wristwatch by a colleague or something.
I do think that is a problem because it's a donor. Now, what does that man, who is clearly very wealthy, probably has lots of businesses, why is he wanting to gift so many Labour MPs? That to me is there is a clear potential issue.
All right, Alison in Lancashire, thank you so much. Christine in the West Midlands, hi.
Oh, good morning, Jeremy. Good morning, panel.
It's a tricky one, this, isn't it? Are you happy seeing them go to Taylor Swift concerts on the cheap?
Well, not really. But I think as long as this generosity extends to the public, let rich Labour donators set up heat hubs at local councils, and generous Labour donators donate their money to hard-up people struggling with their heating bills this winter. I think if you were in Band A, B or C, council tax, then the money donated could go to help struggling people of all age groups.
Yeah.
So we've got food banks, we've got community banks. Yeah. So why not set up heat hubs? And all these people that are rich are in good businesses and they've got hard-working people, local people working for them. Why not set up heat hubs and then people in the lower band council tax who are struggling this winter can go to the council for help? OK,
Christine, thank you. Linda in Hertfordshire, hello.
Hello, nice
What do you
to
make
speak
of
to
it? Are you worried about freebies or not?
I think you have to look at the freebie, and with this one, it's a definite worry. Emirates is called the Emirates Stadium. It is all part of the UAE. The Al Gamal family are not very good with their relationships to females, And I think when you do take a freebie, and you take a freebie from a country like the Emirates, and the T-shirts actually say Emirates fly better, you've got to be very cleaner than clean. And I think this was not a good decision.
Yeah,
you did say who owns Arsenal, and this is what I'm saying to you. The Arsenal are owned and financed, I believe, a lot of the time by a foreign country.
By UAE. Well, yeah, it stands to reason.
How many directors, businessmen own football clubs or own whatever it might be? That's the problem. We don't know where these gifts are coming from. We don't know who has influence over these. We don't know who is in those private boxes.
So
that's
then,
the big problem.
I mean, the issue would be if there was a policy area involving, let's say, do we need a third runway at Heathrow? And Emirates come to the Prime Minister and say, we really do, Prime Minister. And without anyone saying anything, he thinks, oh, if I turn them down, I might lose my box at the stadium. That's no? Marina's uncorruptible.
Clutching of straws here is absolutely unbelievable.
It's a financial relationship.
I wish we had this level of scrutiny over the last 14 years. I wish.
But we didn't, so we can only start from point zero.
Yes, but you're literally going, Danny, you're now saying any sitting Prime Minister can't go and watch a football match.
No, I'm not saying that. Pay for your ticket.
Okay.
Why can't he pay for his own ticket?
Because he would be in the stands with everyone, which is a security risk.
Pay for a box.
Okay, fine. Okay, let's punish people. So if a working class person ends up being Prime Minister, they have to be out of pocket for everything.
Okay.
You're not out of pocket, because you're going to earn enough money.
I think we're just being unrealistic. This is not the world we live in.
Okay.